Clifton-Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I would like to speak to my Amendment 4. The precautionary principle is a whole new way for the government to legislate on environmental matters, which can be applied to a huge range of environmental principles. However, in application, it could be used in the extreme, for example, to introduce policies such as stopping people from driving motor cars on the basis that they damage the environment. That is why my amendment, in an increasingly legislative field, is so important in ensuring government can clearly define the purposes for use of the precautionary principle, beyond those in mere principles, in the mere principles documents outlined in clauses 16, 17 and 18. And indeed, the Minister has confirmed in a letter to me this morning, she says, I can confirm that Ministers of the Crown are only required to have due regard to the policy statement when making policy by virtue of clause 18.1. The environmental principles duty is not designed to apply to individual decisions or other public bodies. So, in other words, the statement of principles is really pretty nearly toothless. So my amendment clearly constrains when and where the precautionary principles can be used. And I ask the Minister that the Minister goes further than just going into the principles in her summing up, but to include some of my amendments on the face of the bill. And a particularly important one is the one at the end, 3C, which says that the precautionary principle should only be used in response to risks that are more than hypothetical in nature and serious and irreversible. Now, I cannot see any reason at all why that shouldn't be applied on the face of the bill. And I hope that if the Minister isn't inclined to include them, that their lordships will pick it up when it goes to their house. Because the precautionary principle is not consistently applied to different activity. It is frequently used to constrain certain activities where any impacts are deemed to be unacceptable. For example, Natural England are currently seeking to restrict game shooting around European protective sites due to evidence of damage in only a mere 1.5% of all sites. They want to introduce a licensing system. So I just say, in summing up, could the Minister really please bear in mind all the constraints that are in my amendments? Otherwise, I think this principle could well become oppressive to people's freedom in the futures, and we may well rue the day that we put this particular provision in the bill. So I'm really looking to the Minister in her summing up to tell me why it is not possible to include some or all of my constraints on the face of the bill, because that's where it ought to be. The statement of principles as written in the bill is pretty nearly toothless, and this precautionary principle gives the Minister or any future Minister in a government of a huge, overwhelming power, which we may well live to regret.
Video link, Hilary Benn.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I would like to speak to new clause 5 on the state of